Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday. So we got the news that we were kind of expecting was going to happen anyways. The SEC is pushing the can down the road on some of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. We knew that they weren't going to get passed right around the first couple 40 days after they applied for it. So we'll take a look at that. What does that actually mean for us? Buying spree possibly. Okay. Also, we have DMG providing their quarterly results, and since they provided theirs and it's the last day of the month, I said for the miners that don't report the quarterly results by the end of the month, they're going to be kept out of the metrics for the quarterly results. We'll take a look at those. Obviously, the grades for those, which ones came in on top. That's going to be interesting to see. And that's going to be it, pretty much. We'll see what's going on with Bitcoin also at the end of the video. So, as always, I'm going to have the chapters on below here for you guys to skip to the sections that you want. But, as always, not financial advice, for entertainment only. Please do your own research. And I'm invested in following coins and companies for full disclosure. So, and if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out. Okay. Let's take a look at what happened today with, obviously, the SEC kind of kicking the can down the road here a little bit. So the SEC delays spot Bitcoin ETF decision for all applicants, including BlackRock and Fidelity. Now, I don't know how many of you were expecting this to get passed. I sure as heck wasn't. I knew this was going to take a while for them to get through this. They're going to push it down as far as they can. And if that happens, it's going to be pretty close to the halving event anyway, so that's going to pump us through there. In the meantime, I think this is still a great buying opportunity, especially the ones that you have high conviction in, whether it's the miners, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or something like that. Do your own research as always, but I'm still going to be buying in because I think this is just a great time to buy before the halving event happens. And with prices coming back down, it's looking even better. So let's get into it here. So the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has delayed until October making a decision on all the spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds. Applications filed by the applicants, including BlackRock, WisdomTree, Invesco, Galaxy, Wise Origin, VanEck, Bitwise, and Valkyrie Digital Assets earlier this year, according to agency filings on Thursday. Obviously, Bitcoin took a dump on that news. The SEC began reviewing the latest slate of applicants from both crypto-heavy and traditional finance firms like Wise Origin, Fidelity, BlackRock, and Invesco Galaxy last month. And today's orders see the SEC holding off on any firm decision, instead extending existing comment periods and allowing for greater public feedback on the applications. The new deadlines for Wise Origin, Galaxy, and WisdomTree are October 17th, and it's 2 days later for Valkyrie. Bitwise now has until October 16th deadline. The regulator has a total of 240 days from when it first began its review of the applications to make the final decision to approve or deny. SEC staff have traditionally used every possible comment and review period to delay making final decisions until those 240 days have elapsed, making Thursday's agency filings expected. Like I said, I didn't think this was going to get passed. I think we're still at least a good probably 3 to 6 months out before this happens, before it goes through. But I think it's a matter of when, not a matter of if anymore, especially since the case that we had with Grayscale and the SEC, against the SEC, that got thrown in their favor, in Grayscale's favor. So I think the SEC has some definitely heavy lifting to do here in the coming months and get this stuff approved. It's just, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. You got the Bitcoin Futures ETF approved. Why not get the spot? They always say it's because of, what do they call it? Shenanigans in the markets, that it's manipulated and stuff like that. I don't buy it. I think it's just them trying to hold off as long as they can from having that approved. They don't want to see Bitcoin go up to, 200,000 or something like that. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's take a look at DMG, and then we'll get into the miners, see how they did over the last quarter results, and we'll grade them as well, and we'll get into all that details. So DMG reported their quarterly results. This was, I believe, yesterday or the day before. I can't remember when. I pulled in the data yesterday. Worked on that yesterday, so I wanted to get that in for you guys. And I was waiting on also Iris Energy to provide theirs. I have not seen theirs yet, which is a shame because it's been 2 months since the quarter ended, basically, and they still don't have it. I don't know why. That's a little concerning not to have those numbers out yet. Okay, so here's DMG, though. Shares outstanding, 167 million. Right now, the market cap is about 38 million for them. Their current hash rate is 917 petahash. Future hash rate is supposed to be about 1.2. They said they're going to grow beyond that. We'll have to see if that happens. And let's take a look down below here. We go over all these metrics here on the monthly production updates, which we'll start having new ones come in tomorrow. Wow, it's already going to be September tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be probably a busy day. We'll probably have Bitfarms as usual provide it, and we'll see who else provides it from there. Now, as far as the quarterly results here, we can see the last 4 quarter revenue have been coming up here through Q2 of this year. It went down a little bit here in Q3. My estimated well, it's going to be Q3 for us, but Q4 for them, it's going to be estimated for 4.18 million in revenue potentially from self-mining. Also, last 4 quarters operating costs minus depreciation has come down a little bit here, which is good from Q2, which was our Q1. And it's down to 4.08 million from the 4.35 million, which is good. The next thing is cost to mine 1 BTC minus depreciation went up to 15.59K, up from the 13.3K that we saw in Q1. Bitcoin mined has also been coming down here ever since Q1 of 2023, which would have been there in the end of December. Yeah, so that would have been the end of December quarter for them. Basically peaked then, and then it's been coming down ever since then. Debt to equity has also been coming down, which is good to see. It's now at 0.0683. Current ratio is at 5.4. Can't talk. 5.64. So that's good to see. Current ratio, we want to see that higher. Debt to equity, we always want to see that come down lower. So that's good there. Total current assets has been increasing here to 20.2 million from 19.1. So that's good. Total current liabilities are still way down there. They're only down to 3.58 million from the 4.16 million that we saw the prior quarter, which is good. So not a lot of debt. They do have a lot of assets still, which is good. So that's a good ratio there. All right, let's take a look at the actual numbers that we do have here. We'll take a look at some of these metrics here that I have later on, but assets, we'll just go through this really quick. Digital assets increased nicely here. Cash and cash equivalents actually went down to 1.7 from 4.7, so about 3 million decrease in that, but we had an increase in digital assets by about the same number here, so it kind of offset it a little bit. And let's see here, total current assets actually increased to 27 million in Canadian from 25.9 million, so that's good. Total assets is now at 91,200,000 in Canadian from 94, so that's actually down here a little bit. Biggest change would be probably property and equipment. Seems like it has gone down in value a little bit here, along with long-term deposits. Liabilities and stockholder equity is now at 4.8 million Canadian compared to 5.4. Total liabilities is at 5.8. And so that's down actually from the 6.4. So that's good there. So total stockholder equity is down to 85 million from 87 million. Revenue was also down, like I said, to 5.5 million from 5.6 million. That's US. The Canadian was 7.49 compared to 7.623. So that is down a little bit here. And that's the problem when the miners are not growing in their hash rate. Okay. We always see that with miners that are kind of stuck with the hash rate that they have. You eventually see revenues come down unless Bitcoin goes up in value. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Total expenses. Let's see here. These are all the revenues here. So revenue came in, total was 5.5, like I said. Total expenses was 8.4 in USD million compared to 9. So those actually went down. So that's good to see there. Gross profit minus depreciation was at 28.65%. So that's up from the 25.59 that they had. So that's good there. Going down to net, let's see here, miscellaneous. Oh, what did I want to take a look at? General and administrative actually went up here to 875,000 from 776. It's still lower than what it was at the 947,000, which is good there, but still not too bad. Next down here, total comprehensive income was negative 1.6 Canadian million dollars, and that accounted for negative 0.03 cents per share loss on that one. The good thing, it looks like here, that the number of shares has not increased at all during the quarter, so meaning they did not dilute at all during that. So that's good there. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers that we do have up here. BTC mined for the quarter was at 197.3 based on what they reported in the monthly operational updates. Starting hash rate was the same at 917 petahash. Ending hash rate was the same at 917. And then it looks like the cost to mine 1 Bitcoin minus depreciation was 15,592, which we already talked about. Debt to equity we talked about. Current ratio we talked about as well. Then you have the book to value of equity, BVE, price to book ratio as well, enterprise value, EBITDA, and then EV ratio for that one should be over here. There's that value there. Revenue and then general administrative compensation. So they came in at 1.4 million. That includes stock-based compensation as well. So that accounted for 18.95%. It's up a little bit from the 15.74% in the prior quarter. Still not too bad though. Okay, so overall, what can I say? It would be nice to see them grow more, and I keep saying this for a lot of the miners, That's unfortunately the hard truth in this space. If you're not growing your hash rate, you're basically slowly dying. If that's a metaphor for that. Because the network hash rate continues to go up as you're stuck where you are, that's going to reduce your monthly generated Bitcoin that you're going to get, leading to less revenue unless Bitcoin actually goes up in value. So the hopes are with all of these guys, the value of Bitcoin does go up. Okay. Now, I still have them at 30 cents because they don't have a lot of growth. So I have a PE of 5 right now for the last 4 quarters, which we're in with the last 3 quarters in the current quarter that we're in. And then that's a 50% net income, 75% net income. We're looking at 46 cents. That's if Bitcoin's going up in value, obviously. They're currently at 23 cents. I think they're pretty close to being fairly valued right now. If we look forward into the future with the current numbers that we have from July, based on that, take that, multiply that times 8 months before the halving at full value, then the 4 months after it at half that, they would be at approximately 13.7 million in revenue. That only gets us to about 20 cents to 31 cents. They're pretty well within that right now. And that's because not a lot of growth. So the companies that we do see that are growing will actually have a higher number here than they do here because that number is going to extrapolate to more revenue going forward. Okay, what else can I say on this one? I think, I don't want to say this, I hate saying this, but they do have a lot of assets. Their debt isn't bad either. They might be a candidate for a buyout if they can't grow past this. But we'll have to see. There's going to be a lot of these smaller miners that are going to be possibly in some pain coming at the halving event, because once that kicks in, the revenue is going to be cut in half as it is. And based on that, it's going to be really tough for them to keep up with payment, with costs. And unless Bitcoin really goes up in value, where it's going to have to basically double from where it's at right now. So it's going to have to be at least 50,000 or so or more by the time you get to the halving event for them to at least maybe break even at that point. Okay. So that's it for that one. Let's take a look at the quarterly results for the miners here, and we grade those on a bunch of metrics here and compare quarters to quarters as well. And that is over here. So for the quarterly metrics and grades on these miners, we'll go over all the different metrics that we use for them, and we split it up into basically operations side of things, and we also take a look at their financial side of things as well. Okay. So the first one up bad is quarter over quarter hash rate growth. So we're looking to see how much they grew from the prior quarter in the current quarter that they just reported on, and give them basically a score. The one that grew the most gets a 1. The one that grew the least gets the lowest number down below. So Marathon came in number 1. They increased their hash rate the most, 6.2 exahash, followed by TeraWolf, 1.5, almost 1.6. Then you got Cypher at 938 petahash, Mawson at 927. Sphere came in there pretty nicely as well, 567. Bit Digital at 529. And you can see the list going down below. Core Scientific, unfortunately, they are in bankruptcy, Chapter 11 right now. So they are getting out of it possibly sometime later on this year if all the creditors agree on the terms. But we still don't know what the dilution is going to be for the individual shareholders that are still holding the stock. But they actually had to sell some of their miners to pay some of the debt down. So they actually sold or got rid of about 1.1 exahash of mining power in order to do that. So that's why they're at the bottom there. Okay, quarter to year to date hash rate growth. So this is looking at how much they grew basically at the end of the quarter year to date. So Marathon came in again number 1. They added about 10.7 exahash, followed by Cypher 3.8, then TeraWolf at 3.4 exahash, Hive at 1.2, Riot at 1. Then you got Bitfarms and all the rest down below. Core Scientific, again, like I said, they had to sell miners, so that's why they're down at the bottom. And then any miner that was tied, you'll see that I give them the same score for that number there. Okay, let's see here. So that's that one. Then if we look at year over year hash rate added, we can see that core Marathon added the most, 13.8 right now. Then you got followed by Riot, 6 exahash, Core Scientific 5.8, Cypher 5.7, TeraWolf 4.7, CleanSpark 4.2, BitDeer 3.8. A lot of these guys like Cypher, TeraWolf are new miners that just started really ramping up this past year. So that's why we're seeing huge increases for them. Excuse me. And you got the other ones down below here. You got Hive and Hut 8 actually being basically losing hash rate. And the main reason for that is because they were mining with GPUs that was no longer available to them come September. So we're going to see that kind of possibly improve for them going forward. But that's the reason why they're at the bottom. They actually lost exahash because of it. Then when we look at quarter Bitcoins per exahash, so this is the efficiency part of things. Hive came in actually number 1 here at 261 Bitcoins per exahash, followed by CleanSpark at 242, then Bitfarms at 239, Cypher at 238, Core at 232, and you got all the ones down below, and Hut 8 came in last here as well. It's not listed here, but Hut 8 is down here. Last one, they were at 153.7 exahash per Bitcoin, or BTC per exahash. Okay, that's that one. Quarter BTC mined, how much each of the miners mined in the quarter. Core Scientific mined the most here, 3,470, followed by Marathon, 2,926. Then you got Riot at 1,775, followed by CleanSpark at 1,624, and then Cypher at 1,259, with a close second of Bitfarms at 1,223. But those are basically our top 5 right there. Bottom ones was Mawson, Sphere 3D, DMG, DigiHost, BitDigital, and Hut 8. And then we'll look at the quarter BTC per million shares. So how much, so we look at the number of shares outstanding at the end of the quarter, BTC mined for that quarter, how many basically Bitcoins did they mine per 1 million shares? Okay. Marathon came in at number 1 at 16.79, followed by Sphere at 14.9. Sphere only has, 11 million shares right now. They did I think a reverse split. That's the reason for them. Mawson, also 10.7. They don't have a lot of shares here. Let me see here. They got 16.5 million shares, I think. If I'm not mistaken, if I make that a little bit bigger. Yeah. They got 16.5 million shares, so that's why that's pretty high on there. CleanSpark was at 10.639, and then Hive was at 9.93. So those are the top 5 there. Bottom ones was DMG, Hut 8, BitDigital, TeraWolf, and Bitfarms. Okay. And then we look at also growth left in exahash or petahash, depending on however you want to look at it. Riot still has a lot. They have 9.4 exahash to grow. Based on what they reported, they could grow beyond that if they actually execute on the agreement that they have with, I think it was Canon. CleanSpark has about 8.5 left to go. So they're in second place. Marathon, 5.5 more to go. Hut 8, and this is based because of their US-BTC merger. Otherwise, they wouldn't be growing at all. But they have about 4.9 exahash left to grow with the merger of US-BTC. And then you got BitDeer with 3.8 left. Those are the top 5 there. Bottom ones are Argo, Core Scientific, no plans, growth left. DigiHost only 182, Hive 280 right now. That's been reported. DMG 315 petahash, BitDigital 321. So you can see the big differences here on those as well. Okay. So based on that, those are the metrics for basically performance, growth, things like that in the quarter, and what's going on in the future, things for them. Quarterly financials. So we look at compensation versus revenue. So we do a ratio on that, or percentage, to see which ones are basically more efficient or using less to pay for compensation and things like that from revenue. And BitDeer came in number 1 with only 17.5%. DMG number 2 at 18.9%. Core number 3 at 19.2%. Hive number 4 at 20%. DigiHost at number 5 at 22%. And then everybody else comes down. Worst ones are Sphere 3D, Cypher, Mawson, Hut 8, BitDigital. Those are the bottom 5 there. And everybody else is kind of in the middle there as well. Let's see what else here. Price to book ratio. Lower is obviously better, meaning that they're possibly undervalued. Higher means that the companies could be possibly overvalued. We got Mawson coming in first, followed by Sphere 3D, Core Scientific, DMG, DigiHost are the top 5. Bottom ones are BitDeer, Marathon, TeraWolf, Argo, Cypher as well. And then the rest are kind of in the middle there as well. So we look at that. Current ratios. This is obviously higher is better. So Marathon came in number 1 with 14.9. We got BitDigital at 10.3, followed by BitDeer at 7.9, Hut 8 at 6.9, Riot at 6.4. Those are the top 5 there. The top 5 worst ones are TeraWolf, Mawson, Argo, Core Scientific, DigiHost, and then you got the rest obviously in the middle there. Then we look at current quarter over quarter current ratio. So did they improve on that or did they get worse on it? And we want to see an increase in that. So the higher the increase, the better the score. Riot came in at number 1. They increased by 3.2 points. DMG increased by 0.9 points. CleanSpark by 0.6. Bitfarms by 0.2. Core Scientific by 0.12. And that's the top 5 there. The worst ones was BitDigital was down 17.6, it looks like. Hut 8, BitDeer, Marathon, and Hive are down towards the bottom there. They actually had worse numbers compared quarter over quarter. Then when we look at the debt to equity ratio, Argo, I got a negative 41 for them, along with Core Scientific 0.48. I don't know if that's really good there. Trying to figure out how to. I think that's probably not good because they're not being valued properly on their balance sheet there. But if you take those out, which are kind of iffy there, Riot would be kind of number 1 there. But I graded it the way it is right now. So you got Riot, DMG, CleanSpark, BitDigital, Hut 8 being basically in the top 5 or top 7, depending how you want to look at it. Marathon, Terrible, BitDeer, Moss, and Sphere 3D came in at the last part of it. So obviously lower is better on this one. Quarter over quarter debt to equity ratio. So did they improve on that quarter over quarter? We can see here that Argo decreased the most here from where they were, followed by Marathon. Marathon was down 0.105. Riot was down 0.043. CleanSpark was down 0.04. And then Bitfarms was down 0.005. And then these guys actually got worse at their debt to equity ratios. Mawson leading the pack here, followed by Sphere 3D, TeraWolf, Core Scientific, and BitDigital as well. Okay, and then here's the total scores for the 7 metrics that are growth-based. We got the top leaders here based on all the scores. Excuse me. I combine them all together here for the total metric score on growth. Marathon came in number 1 here. Cypher came in at 2nd place with 37 points. CleanSpark in 3rd spot with 39. Riot in number 4 spot with 41. And then TeraWolf came in at number 5 with 46. And then we got Bitfarms, Hive, Sphere 3D Core, BitDeer, BitDigital, Mawson, DigiHost, Argo, Hut 8, and DMG. Now, Riot, some might argue that they get curtailment credits from electricity and things like that. That possibly could have been moved up a little bit here as well, because they did get quite a bit of cash for curtailing. Okay, but this is kind of the way that I look at them right now. And then if we look at the total score metrics for the financial side of things, we can see that DMG came in number 1 with the lowest score, which is good. And then Riot came in at number 2 spot, CleanSpark at number 3, followed by Core Scientific, and then Bitfarms. Then you got Hive, Argo, DigiHost, Marathon, Hut 8, BitDeer, BitDigital, Cypher, Mawson, Sphere 3D, and TeraWolf. TeraWolf, if we look at TeraWolf here, they scored pretty high on a lot of these here. The only one that they scored pretty low, or kind of in the middle, it looks like, was compensation per revenue, and then quarter over quarter current ratio. They came in also in the middle there. That's why they've scored pretty high here as it is. So there is concern with TeraWolf because of the debt they do have and the amount of it that they do have. They have been growing nicely. They've been operating otherwise pretty nicely as well. But that debt is definitely kind of floating over them right now. Okay, so based on the total 13 score metrics where we include the financials and the growth side of things, this is the way things stack up. Riot came in number 1 at 70 points. Marathon at 74, CleanSpark at 73, so they're number 3 spot. Bitfarms at number 4 spot. Cypher at number 5 spot. And then you got Core Scientific, Hive, DMG, BitDeer, TeraWolf, Sphere 3D, BitDigital, DigiHost, Argo, and Mawson towards the end here. And am I missing one? I am missing one. There we go. Hut 8. Hut 8 came in last. And the reason for that is mainly because of their growth. Their operation side of things has been atrocious, unfortunately, this past year. So that's why they're at the very end here. I'm hoping that with the merger with USBTC, they will finally get their stuff together and be able to get more in the middle side of things, or even get towards the the better scores on this chart. But that's kind of where they are at right now. Okay, so that's just regular metrics the way they are. I like to also weigh the metrics a little bit here to look at things that are more important to me, which have a little bit more possibly weight to what they're going to be possibly going forward. And here's the way things stacked up as well. You guys might not agree with this. You might have different metrics that you want to weight them differently. But basically, quarter over quarter hash rate growth, I did that as a 0.5 of the original score. So basically half of that. I don't think it's that important. Year-to-date hash rate growth also not very important. So that's only half of that. Year-over-year hash rate growth, same thing, half. BTC per exahash, that's the metric for efficiency. I think that's important. That's a 2, so a 2x for me. I'm multiplying those scores by 2. And then growth left, I think, is also very important. That's also a 2x for me there, so that's a growth part of it. BTC mined, it's important, but for me not as important as it is for BTC million, as BTC per million shares. BTC per million shares lets me know that if Bitcoin goes up in value, the number of shares they have and how much they're mining will impact how much the stock will actually go up, because that will have an impact, positive impact on revenue, unfortunately. So that's important to me as well. So I left that at 1 basically there. And here's the way things stacked up on this. If you look at it all here, we can see that CleanSpark came in number 1 with 27.5 points. Marathon number 2 spot with 33.5 points. Cypher with 42. Bitfarms with 45. And Riot with 46. So those are the top 5 miners right there. This is just on the growth part of things, okay? It's not the combine, but this is just for the growth. And then you got Hive, TeraWolf, Sphere 3D, BitDeer. Why do I have BitDeer in here twice? Oh, I got them in there twice. Okay. Made a mistake there, but they're in there twice. Core Scientific, BitDigital, DigiHost, Mawson, Hut 8, DMG, and then we got Argo here at the very end at 87. So those are the way things stacked up. Now, when we look at the total scores for the financial side of things, weighted, I think, for me at least, the current ratio is important, so I give it a 2x. Debt to equity ratio is also important, 2x. This is the PB ratio, 2x on that one. Compensation versus revenue is also important to me. Quarter-over-quarter debt to equity ratios, how do they perform? That's not really important to me. So that's a 1 and a 1 for the current ratio, quarter-over-quarter as well. So the way things stacked up here, it's a little bit different. Based on those metrics, DMG came in number 1, Riot at number 2 spot, Core Scientific number 3 spot, CleanSpark number 4, Bitfarms number 5. And you got Hive, DigiHost, Hut 8, Argo, BitDigital, Marathon, BitDeer, Cypher, Sphere 3D, Mawson, and last one would be TeraWolf, again, on the financial side of things. You can see that when we look at the financials, TeraWolf comes in at the last part of it. And if we look at growth and operations side of things, TeraWolf comes in more towards the middle, even closer towards the front of the class here a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of what's really weighing them down on the scores. So when we combine all the scores on the weighted part of things, this is the way things stack up. You got CleanSpark coming in number 1 with 96.5 points, Riot with 100 points, number 2 spot. Bitfarms coming in at number 3 spot with 116. Core Scientific 123, so they're number 4 spot. Marathon number 5 spot with 124 points. And that's actually kind of tied with DMG here for the number 5 spot. And then you got Hive, Cypher, BitDeer, BitDigital, DigiHost, Sphere 3D, Hut 8, Argo, Mawson, and TeraWolf. And to compare them to how they would have looked, well, compared to the non-weighted metrics, pull this chart together for you guys so you can see here. The green lines are based on where they were in the weighted metrics. So Riot, without the weighted part of the side of things, came in at number 1. Marathon at number 2 spot. CleanSpark number 3. Bitfarms number 4. And then Cypher number 5. But with the weighted metrics, this is the way they kind of stacked up here. Cypher actually went to the furthest back here at 7 with the weighted numbers. So let me know what you guys think of all this stuff. We still have a couple of months. Well, we have basically a month left. We're going to be in September coming up here shortly, tomorrow actually, and then we are going to be done with Q3 already, which is just bizarre and how fast the time is flying right now. But let me know what you guys think of all of these numbers. Obviously, to me, any one of these guys that are in the top 5, whether you look at the weighted metrics or the non-weighted metrics, those are the kind of the go-to ones. The only one that would maybe question here is DMG. DMG obviously is not growing a lot. I wouldn't put a lot of cash into that one. The other ones here are TeraWolf. And TeraWolf one is also a tough one because the debt. The debt is concerning there. But they might be able to get out of it depending where Bitcoin goes. Okay, we'll have to see how they continue going forward as well. But in that top 5, I think are no problem. Core Scientific, like I said, is also going to be risky. So take that one out, if anything, because that's a high risk, high reward, depending on how well they get out of the Chapter 11 bankruptcy and how much the shareholders get diluted because of it. Okay, so there might be some upside to them, yes, but it's definitely risky. Okay, and what else here? I think that's it. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think, whether you agree or disagree. or if you would have weighted them differently and things like that. But we'll leave it at that, and we'll discuss some more down in the comments below. Okay, finally, let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin and the miners today, because it was not a good day. So Bitcoin finished out the day basically where we were 2 days ago. It was down today 5.03%, and it closed at 25,932. We were pretty much there on, what was that, Tuesday, I believe it was. Yeah, Tuesday. We started there and we rocketed up because we had the news on Grayscale against the SEC, that it was in favor of Grayscale. That rocketed things up, and then people found out today that the SEC is not going to be basically approving any of the Bitcoin ETFs right now. They're going to kick the can down the road, like they always do at least. So we're back down here. So we'll have to see how things progress, but we did definitely come back to our support line at 26,000. RSI, like I said, when we had the spike on Tuesday, I didn't like the large, quick candlesticks going up here on the daily. That's always a concern for me. It has come back down here a little bit more, but it didn't come back down to where it was at the previous level right here at 28, where it was oversold. It's now at 37. But we are seeing a difference here on the 1 hour chart. If we look at the 1 hour chart, we can see that the RSI is now below the 30 markets at 9. It's actually at 24 right now. It did go down to 19. When we started the kind of rally here on Tuesday, we were at approximately 50 RSI on that one. So it is way down from there. That gives me a little hope that we might be actually going back up here and reversing this pattern here a little bit going forward. But we'll have to see. Nobody knows the future of Bitcoin, where it's going to go. We can only speculate and kind of comment on it and disagree or agree with it. Okay, let's see. Ethereum also same thing, way down today on that part because of what happened with Bitcoin. Dropped, pretty much took everything down with it except for a couple stocks here. But ANY was down 3.3%. Bit Digital was down 8.91%. I'm sure they're going to be down even more tomorrow. BitDeer, and I'm saying for all these miners, I think they're going to be down tomorrow as well, unless Bitcoin actually goes up or something like that. BitDeer was down 1.67%. Bitfarms was down 5.56%. Cypher was down 4.49%. CleanSpark was down 6.81%. Cores was down 5.8%. DG Host was actually up today 7%, which was kind of surprising to see. DMG was down 5%. Greenish was down 10%. Hive was down 6.6%. Hut 8 was down 7.9%. Iris Energy was down 8.6%. Marathon was down 6.6%. Mawson was down 11.9%. Riot was down 5.8%. Soluna was down 8.56%. Stronghold was down 5.7%. Wolf was down 8.3%. And then we got WGMI, the ETF, was down 5.59%. I may buy a little bit more tomorrow, depending where the stocks go. I'm looking to sell some of my shares in Rivian. That will give me some cash I can put into the miners here, which I think is going to be a better return in the next year to 2 years, rather than Rivian. Rivian, I think, is going to be like a 5 to 10 year play. So I may have to shuffle some stocks around a little bit. Okay, that's it for that one. Also, I almost forgot on this. I wanted to compare this to you guys with the monthly operational updates that we do on the metrics on this and how things stacked up. So as you see these here, CleanSpark, Riot, Bitfarms, Core Scientific, Marathon, I would maybe take Core out of there, but these are the top ones that I'm looking here at the quarterly results. And if you look at the monthly results here, you got CleanSpark, Marathon, Hive, Bit Digital, Iris being in the top 5 there. This is based not including HODL or current hash rate. And this is if we include all the 8 metrics that we do on the monthly. We got Marathon, CleanSpark, Hive, Cypher, Bit Digital, Bitcoin, Iris. Usually the same kind of companies here. TeraWolf even scored pretty good here on that. But when you look at the financials things, you can definitely see that there's a difference on the way they get weighed and scored and everything else. Okay, so that's it. I'll leave it at that before I ramble on even more. Like I said, tomorrow is going to be the beginning of September. So with that, we'll have, I know we're going to have probably a couple miners provide their operational updates for August. When they do, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll get that updated as well, see how they're doing, and then we'll see how they're going to be doing in September, where Bitcoin's possibly going to go. We'll talk about all that stuff here. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys have a great day, great evening. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and it's going to be a long weekend for us. We have Monday off because of, Labor Day, I think. So it's going to be an extended weekend. So I hope if I don't see you guys until then, have a wonderful weekend and a great holiday. And I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.